Alright, so in this video we're going to look at how to do some of these problems with examples and numbers. So the first one, we need to find the scale factor of this picture. First you need to determine which one is your pre-image and which one is your image. The pre-image versus the image, and again you can tell this by the little prime marks beside the letters. With these shapes for dilations you can set up a proportion, and from the last video we saw that if you take your image over your pre-image length, you can find out the scale factor for the picture. So I'm going to take my image 6 and find the side that would actually correspond with it. So I'm looking from R prime to X prime. I need to go with RX. So 2 will be my denominator. I reduce this and I can find that my scale factor is 3. If I can take 2 and times it by 3, I get 6. If I did 4 times 3, you can get 12. So this will allow you to find the scale factor and then actually apply it to find all the missing lengths. So now I'm not only going to find the scale factor, I need to find some ordered pairs as well. So I've given you all the original ordered pairs for J, K, M, and L. So these are all my pre-image locations. So I need to find what the image would be sitting at so I can go back and do some math and figure out my scale factor. But just looking at the picture, you should be able to tell if it's an enlargement or a reduction. And since my picture is going within the other, this is a reduction in size. So let's look at J, point J prime here. It's at 0, 1. So you can see that the numbers are getting smaller from the pre-image to the image. So let's do K prime. Sitting here, I'm over 1, 2, 3, up 0. For N prime, I'm at negative 1, negative 1. And if I'm looking at L, I'm at 3, negative 2. So I've got to find out my rule, how I can go from my pre-image to my image. Again, it's going to be reducing, so my number is going to be smaller than 1. I'm going to have a fraction. If I look at my x values, I'm going to look at the kx values because 0 to 0 doesn't really help me. But to get from 6 to 3, I know I'm going to have to do something to the 6 in order to get 3 as an answer. We should know this one. Half of 6 is 3. If the rule is true, if I take half of negative 2, I should get negative 1. Again, 6, half of that is 3. So my rule would be to take half of my x value. I can have the same scale factor for my y or different, so let's just see if it is the same first. If I take 2 and try to get to 1, if I take half of that, I do get 1. Again, zeros won't help me that much, so let's look at m. If I take a negative 2, divide it in half, I get a negative 1. Same thing would work from L to L prime, so my scale factor is the same for x and for y. Now we're going to actually graph the image once we find what the new points should be using the scale factor of 2. So if I know the scale factor, there's little work I have to do to get the rule. If my scale factor is 2, that means I have 2 times x and 2 times y. So I can apply this rule for all of these pre-image points, times everything by 2 on both sides. So I would have negative 8 and positive 8. Negative 8, negative 8. Positive 8, positive 8, positive 8, negative 8. So when you go back to actually do the graph, you already have the pre, so now I need to do the image. I'm going to take and graph all 4 of these points so you can see what happens to my figure. If it's a scale factor of 2, this should be growing or an enlargement. So let's plot these points. Negative 8, positive 8 would be my K prime. for n, -8, -8 for n prime. My L prime is at +8, +8. And then my n prime is over 8, -8. So you can see that the points are corresponding. My k stays in the same quadrant or in the same location as the other k. But now if I connect these points, you should see that my figure has grown in size. It has actually doubled or dilated by a scale factor of 2. One more before you try some of these on your own. We want to graph the image of this quadrilateral after a dilation with a scale factor of 1/5. So again, this number is smaller than 1, so instead of growing in size, it should be shrinking. I'm going to take 1/5 of my x and 1/5 of my y. If you're not confident in your math skills, you can use a calculator at this point, type it in the calculator, and get an answer. If you're using a calculator, to put a fraction in, you do parentheses, 1 divided by 5, and close your parentheses. Then multiply it by whatever number that you need to. For the sake of time, I went ahead and put the answers, so I'll give you a second. I would pause the video at this point and catch up, but 1/5 of all the numbers, it's basically dividing everything by 5, will give you your new ordered pairs for this image. I would pause, do the work, copy it down. Go ahead and try to graph the picture. I'll graph it as soon as you hit start again. You'll be able to see what the graph would look like. So just by appearance, instead of just looking at ordered pairs, you can see that my quadrilateral has now shrunk. It is now 1/5 the size of the original shape. Alright, so you should be good to go now with your dilation practice. There are only 4 dilations that you actually need to complete. If you want to try the first 2, let me check them before you try the back 2, then that's fine. If you feel confident enough to go ahead and do all 4, that's completely fine. Just make sure you put it in the bin. Just disregard the numbering. I cut and pasted to create it, so the numbering's off. But there are 4 questions. Draw it on the grid and move on. Once you have handed that in, you do have your IXL homework. We really need to get on the ball with these. They are due on Friday. So pretty much by now you've gotten, I would think, probably 80% of them to where you can actually do the problems. You have some extra credit ones that we can work on tomorrow as well, but you should be working to complete all 4 transformation reviews now on IXL. If you have questions, raise your hand. I'll come to you and help you. If not, good luck. Tomorrow we will do an activity where we'll not be watching the videos unless you need to go back and relearn something. Good luck.